Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Shiner said during about his 90-minute closing argument that, unfortunately, we're never going to know whether Sebastian or Tyler or both of them pointed guns at him and his brother. Well, ladies and gentlemen, to steal a phrase that the defendant stole from me from my opening statement, actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. Your Honor, the lights go down.
Sure.
April 7th, 2021, just turning into 12:11 a.m. Now, Mr. Shiner, during his entire closing argument, kept saying this whole thing took 10 minutes. It took 8 to 10 minutes. No, it didn't. No, it did not. You have all these videos and evidence. If you ever have a doubt as to anything I'm saying, you have the power to come back in this room and watch every single video. Once I'm done talking, once the judge gives his final instruction, all that evidence is yours. Do with it what you will. But in terms of this video right here, you're going to see an earlier video of when that car pulls up first. They all get out of the car. Then the car starts to move up a little bit. It parks, and they start walking to 550 Teague Drive. That is just before 12:06 a.m. They are walking to his house just before 12:06 a.m. 12:11, we're going to see them getting back to this car. This whole fight, remember Dr. Maricini, hey, an ultra-marathoner, that's where you start getting rigor mortis. This entire fight took less than 3 minutes probably. From the time it took them to walk to the front door and commit their sneak attack. You ever seen an assassin that bad, ladies and gentlemen? A sneak attack? They walked up to the front door. Not wearing any masks, nothing. That's the worst sneak attack I've ever seen. They could have went in through the side door. They could have jumped into the backyard where the farm is with all their guns ablazing. That would have been a sneak attack, and that's not what happened, ladies and gentlemen. Why? They weren't going there to kill anyone. They were not going there to kill anyone. Did they want to have a talk with Travis over what they heard he had done earlier in the night? Absolutely. And as my colleague, Miss Edwards, says, you might not like the time of day. It might be rude. It might be inconvenient. Nothing illegal about a loved one going to someone's house a couple hours after something like this happened saying, what's the deal? Do we really think this fight starts if Travis comes out and says, I'm so sorry, man. Everything got crazy. She got crazy. I don't know what happened, but I'm sorry. Do we really think any of this happens? Do we really think they decide to still jump him when he apologizes? No, but that's not what this defendant does. He goes on the offensive. He goes on the offense. And that's why you're all sitting there and he's sitting there. He could not control his anger that night, ladies and gentlemen, and he made sure they could never come back and disrespect him. 90 minutes, Mr. Shiner spoke. What he left out during that is what not only this defendant said his brother Daryl was, but where Daryl said he was. Remember, they did a whole demonstration right in front of you. Both of them. Couldn't be more clear. 10 feet, and he was on my right. That's the only way this defendant gets his brother to be able to get up and say, I saw those same guns pointed at us too through the windshield. Let's take a look at the video, because the video does not lie. Here they are getting into the car. Here's it backing up. The first shots. I think you'd all agree with me? Those first shots come basically at the 11-second mark. So remember, 11-second mark. This defendant, along with his brother, said, when those shots start firing out, Daryl should be somewhere right over here. Right? He's on his right-hand side, 10 feet away, to be able to see in the windshield. Daryl should be right here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how many seconds go by before Daryl comes on this video.
You're blocking the view, Mr. Clausi.
I'm going to go back. Here's Daryl right here. Is that to the defendant's left, 10 feet away, or is that Daryl catching up behind him when the threat was completely over? If you can't see this on this screen, ladies and gentlemen, we have this laptop. You can look at the laptop screen. He is right there. There is nobody else outside. That is definitive. And now Mr. Shiner is saying, well, not only is there a phantom gun, there's a phantom. You can watch Daryl run after Tyler. You can watch him do it. See the figure? Coming across, speeding up now, running past his brother, and running up that driveway. That is Daryl Rudolph, ladies and gentlemen. He is not only not where he and his brother say he was, he couldn't be more wrong. He couldn't be more wrong about where he was when those shots are going off. Ask yourselves why. Ask yourselves why. He knows he's trying to save his brother. He knows the only way he saves his brother is to put guns in Sebastian and Tyler's hands. And the only way he can agree with his brother is to put himself in a place where he could have seen any of that. This video shows he was nowhere near that. He was nowhere near his brother. No one was aiming guns at him. He walks onto screen. He goes toward the guys in the car that are leaving. These are the guys that are traumatized about what just happened right before they get down to that car. It's not true. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just not true. Maybe he didn't notice himself as a phantom in the right-hand corner of that before they started talking, but it's there, and it's 100% different than what they said. Why? Because it's not the truth. Daryl Rudolph was no longer in any type of trouble when he decided to fire off 39 shots, and the video proves that. The video proves that. Actions speak louder than words. When it comes to this event, and Judge, lights on. Thank you very much. When it comes to this event, Daryl Rudolph said, I had to ask him, hey, out on the lawn, when he pointed that gun at you, how far away was that gun? Oh, I'd say probably guesstimate 10 inches away from my skull. Getting his life threatened, according to Daryl. What does he do? What does he do? Not only does this video show, he chases after the man that had a firearm 10 inches away from his temple. He runs him down. What was Daryl's plan going to be? To get shot in the face? That doesn't make any sense. And to Daryl's credit, I asked him, you know your answer about why you did that, why you ran after the only person that you claim you saw had a gun. Why would you run after him? I asked him, that doesn't make sense, right? And to his credit, he agreed. It doesn't make sense because it's not the truth. That's not what any reasonable person in that situation, if what he's claiming is true, would have done. You do not run after the one guy that's armed when you absolutely aren't. By this point, ladies and gentlemen, essentially, there's been two worlds presented. The world from the Rudolphs about what happened that day, and the version from the state. Once you start funneling every fact, every piece of evidence that you've gotten in this trial through those two worlds, one of those worlds, a lot of alarm bells going to go off. A lot of alarm bells. Going to be like, you know what? That's absolutely not what I would expect. And one world, everything makes sense. Just take Daryl Rudolph's reaction. Let's live in the defense world. Does that make any sense, what he does? No, it doesn't. He said it himself. Why? It's not the truth. Now put it in the prosecution's world. Does it make sense why he ran after Tyler Robinson? Of course it does. Because if Tyler Robinson and none of them ever flashed a gun, pointed a gun, did anything with a gun, he's just chasing after the guy that disrespected the house. Maybe wants to get a few punches in himself. Does that ring any alarm bells, ladies and gentlemen, that version of the story about why he runs after the gunman? No. Because you're running after somebody to get a few extra punches in. Take Travis's and Daryl's reactions after this all occurs. When you watch the video of this defendant marching down the street with that gun, is that a man afraid that there's any gunfire going to be coming back his way? No, he's marching like he's Superman and Rambo combined. Does that make any sense? Wouldn't he try to duck behind a car when they're driving around and Tyler jumps over the fence? How does he know Tyler isn't going to just look over the fence and shoot at him? He nonchalantly walks back to his house with his brother. How is that possible? If this traumatizing event that prevented his mother from even typing in her own passcode or using the emergency button to call 911, does that make any sense? No. Now, put it in the prosecution world. If they never saw a gun from any of those four guys, does it make sense why he's marching down the street feeling like he's bulletproof? Does it make sense as to why Daryl just feels he can walk back to the house even though he has no idea where Tyler is? Yes, because that's the truth. That's the truth. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, no action can speak louder than words. Use the defense world. Daryl Rudolph, his mother, don't call 911. Don't call 911. That start to ring any alarm bells? Why they wouldn't do that? This woman had cameras everywhere. Everywhere. And you heard her testimony. She thought they were recording. When he is getting handcuffs put on him, what better moment is there to at least tell the guy putting the cuffs on, maybe you got this all wrong? Not a word. Not a paper airplane note out the window saying they had guns. She didn't scream out the window they had guns. Daryl, when he's texting back and forth, doesn't even mention the word gun. Why? Because they did not use any guns. And now, in front of all of you, they're trying to put those phantom guns in his hands. In Sebastian's hand and in Tyler's hand. Because that's the only way he gets out of murder, ladies and gentlemen, and he knows it. There's the Rudolph family story, and then there is the truth. He was not in any imminent danger when he decided to pull that trigger, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, 39 times at a car that was leaving. And Mr. Shiner wants to say that video shows it going forward first. Okay. You'll have a chance to watch these videos, ladies and gentlemen. All you got to do is ask. If you haven't seen it enough already, and if you're not clear. Detective Vanderlyn said we didn't talk about him. Here are some quotes from Mr. Shiner. Lack of investigation. Didn't give a damn. Did absolutely nothing. She didn't care. She didn't want to know. Where'd all this come from? Where did every single one of that piece of evidence come from? Videos, text messages, guns, ammunition, photographs, CSI, call logs, cell phones. Everything came from her. He said she did nothing. Did I just make all this stuff up out of thin air? No. But for Detective Vanderlyn, none of this is here. None of it. And he just got up before all of you and acted like she didn't do a thing. That's not true. He wants to force you all to believe she's a terrible detective. How did I just play that video I just showed you? She lucked into it? No. These officers did everything they could to get to the bottom of how Sebastian ends up dead, how Tyler ends up with 2 shots in his body, and how Keyshawn and Chris barely dodged the same fate. These are all the defense exhibits. These are ours. They're just blow-ups of the evidence that Vanderlyn got. So literally, everything on this table, everything on that table, everything defense has in an exhibit, Detective Vanderlyn. And he just got up here and said she didn't do a thing. Didn't do a thing. That's not true either. That's trying to force you to doubt what this investigation revealed, ladies and gentlemen. And as we talked about, forced doubts are not reasonable doubts. They're not. How do you not search for guns over there? And I think during his closing, he also said, did any of the defense witnesses play games? Daryl Rudolph did. Once he got caught on this videotape, seeing that he's absolutely not where he said he was to you a few minutes before, oh, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. That's playing games, ladies and gentlemen, because he has no good explanation for that. And how do they not search for guns? Ask Daryl during cross-examination. Detective Vanderlyn gave you the card, right? Call her anytime you want. Tell her anything you want. Oh, I don't remember that. Well, then we go back to the hearing about a year ago. No juror members here. What do you say right away? When asked the question, did Detective Vanderlyn give you a business card? Yes. Did she tell you that you can call her anytime with any relevant information that you have? Yes. But he gets up there in front of all y'all. Oh, I don't even know who she is. He doesn't now know the main detective on his brother's case. Give me a break. Give me a break. Give me a break. Linda Rudolph. Again, all those cameras there. Ring videos, text messages, everything. Same thing. Detective Vanderlyn wants to hear from you. He's acting like he did. Detective Vanderlyn didn't even try. Didn't even try. Just put him in cuffs, let him walk away. Linda has something to say, don't want to hear it. Oh, Daryl has something to say, don't want to hear it. Can't be any different than the truth. Linda Rudolph doesn't want to admit that either, ladies and gentlemen. She wants to pretend like that detective wrote her off, when in actuality, that detective gave her every chance to say the word gun, and she never did. Think about that. Think about what a reasonable person, if what Linda, Daryl, and Travis are saying is true, wouldn't that be the first and only thing you would say to those cops that are waiting outside? And this whole excuse of, oh, we heard sirens, so guess they would just figure everything out. Ladies and gentlemen, give me a break. You know, in here, that's garbage. That's a garbage excuse. You know it. If you knew the police were coming, then why didn't you interact with them? Even then, let's assume that story is true somehow. Well, when the cops are there, why aren't you running out to them to say, my son's just got attacked. I'm so traumatized over it. It's because that didn't happen. They knew that. Quite frankly, she might have been worried that the cameras did capture everything her son just did unjustifiably outside, and that's why she can't talk to the cops at that moment, and nor can Daryl, because they don't have time yet to come up with how Travis ain't guilty of first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder, ladies and gentlemen. On the flip side, did Chris Lowe, did Keyshawn, did they talk to the police right after this? Yes, it can be done. It's easily done. You have Keyshawn's 911 call, and in that call, he gives a quick, to-the-point summary of what took place. Then, when you want to watch the officer body-worn camera from Detective Etienne that spoke with Chris Lowe, he does the same thing. They're clearly in shock, too. They had a dead body sitting right next to them, who was their best friend, and somehow they're able to muster up what happened at that house. His brother, silent. His mother, silent. Even as they're seeing him carted away in handcuffs. Does that make any sense in that world? No. Because it's not the truth. It's not. We can understand why. Okay? If in your packets there was a form, had a question, said, is Daryl Rudolph a generally good guy? Sub-question, is Linda Rudolph generally a good woman? I tell you to mark yes. I tell you. They didn't do anything here. They didn't put themselves in this position. They didn't make Travis do what he did. In fact, Linda Rudolph tried to stop him. Linda Rudolph tried to stop him. If anything they said were true about these assailants that are just horribly beating them up to a pulp, even though we don't have any photographs, none of them went to the hospital, nothing serious injury in the course of a 3-minute fight, then why isn't she telling the police that is what happened? It would have been very easy. Just like Chris was able to do somehow when he's in shock, just like Keyshawn calling 911. It can be done when you want the police to know what happened. And when you don't, it speaks volumes. That silence from them is deafening, and you know in your hearts why they didn't do that. Why would they have to be forced to come in? Kept saying, well, if I ever got a subpoena, hey, seems to me that for the last 2 years, your son has been charged with murder. At what point are you going to come and tell us he's innocent? Now, in front of y'all. That's all. You don't think Detective Vanderlyn goes back with them dogs or them drones or anything like that if the word gun even got mentioned by any of them? Do you really think she doesn't care? That's not true. That is forcing you to doubt, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Maricini, that is the definition of a possible doubt. He literally said, could be a gun, could be nothing. $12,000, please. I was the one that said, hey, did you take a look at his left hand? Gun could be in there too. Where's my $12,000? Mr. Schreiner just got up here and said, we paid him a couple thousand. Left $10,000 off that bill for that testimony. And by the way, Mr. Schreiner left out the fact that guy's never testified for the state. Ever. 2/3 income, 100%. I testify for defense. I wonder why that is. That's $12,000 to force you to doubt whether or not Sebastian had a gun in his hand. That's what that is. That ain't a reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen. You heard Dr. Osborne say those marks that paid expert came in and said, oh, those are indicative of, gun marks in his hand. Dr. Osborne got up and said, no, that's lividity. That's pooling of blood. That is absolutely not what that is. He has no skin in the game. He doesn't get paid more or less based on what he says. He told you Dr. Maricini was wrong. And we know why he's wrong. He's getting paid to be wrong. He's getting paid to force a doubt in your heads about, oh, that's absolutely a gun that was in his hand, when we all know that's not true. That's not what he said. That's not what it means. It's the definition of a possible doubt. Mr. Schreiner said, well, how do you expect Linda and Daryl to trust the police after Travis got arrested? What about before? What about before? There was plenty of time before Travis was ordered out of the house for them to talk to the police. Not a word. Didn't know what to say. They know what to say now. We can understand it. It's a brother and a mother who love the man sitting in that chair very much. We can understand why they said what they said. We don't have to accept it as truth. In fact, the video contradicts it completely, and common sense does too. We can feel sorry for Daryl and Linda and Sebastian and Keyshawn. We can. It's not their fault. It's his fault right there. He pulled the trigger 39 times. He was pissed off that they disrespected his mama's house, and he was going to make sure they could never come back and do it again. He doesn't have that legal right, ladies and gentlemen. Nowhere in that package you all have says that he can. It says that there had to be an imminent threat of death or great bodily harm when he pulled that trigger, and the evidence, the facts, the testimony, even his and his brothers and his mother's show this wasn't out of an imminent threat of death or bodily harm. This was payback. How dare you come over here and disrespect me? That is against the law, especially when you murder one person and almost kill three. Tyler forgot to put a bullet in the chamber. I'm sorry. Wasn't this the guy that they said, along with the other three, that their only motivation coming over to the house was to kill somebody? And now he's saying, oh, he just forgot to put the bullet in the chamber. Does that seem like, doesn't jive anymore, folks, right? Said in their opening statement, these four men were coming over, vigilantes, set on killing, set on shooting shit up. Where's the shit that got shot up? Where is it? Tyler? All of them. Remember in their opening said all four had guns. Don't know where that came from. Where is the shit that got shot up by those four guys if their sole determination was to come over and there and do that? As opposed to the state's version of, hey, Dominique was real pissed off and they went over because they were pissed off too, and they were going to start a fight with him if he wanted one. Does that make sense? Any alarm bells, ladies and gentlemen? No, because it's the truth. Tyler could have shot Daryl right in his face in the grass. Doesn't happen. When the fight first starts, any of them, according to Mr. Schreiner, pull out the gun, shoot anyone, shoot the BMW, shoot the house, shoot the cameras. Not a shell casing, ladies and gentlemen, not one, anywhere but his. 39 of them. How does that make any sense? Story not jive anymore? About these four vigilantes sent by Don Corleone to come over here? This ain't like a Sopranos episode, ladies and gentlemen. To turn Dominique Jones into Tony Soprano is a joke. Travis is the victim. Travis is the victim. Cheats on his girlfriend, undisputed. When he gets in front of all of you, tries to say, oh, well, it wasn't really that serious. Oh, well, I didn't make her my official girlfriend. All this, all that. Despite she sleeps over all the time, and in previous hearings, that's exactly what it was. And he admits that he was not faithful with her. So what happens? She finds out. She gets upset. That ring any alarm bells or anything? Yes. Anybody would tend to get upset if they find out the person that they've been dating for a year has been cheating on them. Makes sense why she gets upset. She says very nasty things to him. What does he do in response to that? When he's in the wrong now, ladies and gentlemen, he is. What does he do? Starts making fun of her body. Saying, hey, the other girl that I've been cheating with, she got a way better body than you. That seem like he's not a victim? That seem like he's instigating? Does that seem like he's escalating with the girlfriend? Yes. Can we understand why Dominique gets a little bit more angry after that? Again, yes. And then what happens? He calls her a bitch. Said, hey, come get this crazy bitch. And then she gets upset again. Is there ever a moment where he's not the cause of her anger? No. Defense keeps wanting to talk about, oh, she was married. She was married. Any evidence she was still seeing that guy? Any? No. She got up there and told you, we're legally separated. I didn't really want to tell him that. Can we understand that? That a girlfriend in a relationship for about a year doesn't really want to talk about this thing that's about to end anyway and has no relevance in their relationship. Yes. But there's no evidence she was cheating on anybody. I think all the evidence is she loved him. She wanted to be with him. She got worried that he was being unfaithful, and lo and behold, he was, and she got upset. All makes sense. Now, should she have smacked him upside his head? I'm a prosecutor. Can't say that. Words. Can't let you do that. But she smacked him upside his head, and we can understand why. Then he puts her on the ground. So much so that Daryl, after the fact, is way pissed off at his brother. Despite the minimization that's coming on after this fact, we know about that whole story. If all of it was just Dominique overreacting, he would not be upset with his brother. So that's how we know his brother was not the calm, cool, and collected person that they say he is 24/7. So she gets mad. She tells her loved ones what Travis did, and they come over to talk with him about it. Again, totally understandable, ladies and gentlemen. Totally understandable. So the first thing they say when they get up to that door is they want to have a chat with Travis. Tried calling. That didn't work. They want to say his phone's broken. Phone records are there. Go ahead and look at the rejected call, ladies and gentlemen. Can't do that if the phone ain't working. He ignored them, and then he came outside. Remember that version, ladies and gentlemen, from Daryl and Linda. This fight happens. All of them are getting text messages or phone calls saying, hey, we're coming over there. We're coming over there to have a chat about what just happened. This was a couple hours beforehand. They have the cameras pointing down at the front door. Daryl gets up and testifies, I thought it was the police, and I just ran to the door and I didn't look anything. Give me a break. Give me a break. These are the same people that constantly talked about the sad event of either their father or husband dying, so much so that it was so traumatizing that they're so scared that they put that screen up there to be able to tell who is outside of their house. And Daryl gets in front of gets up on that stand and says, oh, I didn't look at that monitor at 12 midnight after all these threats came because I just figured it was the police. Give me a break. Give us a break. That's not true. And we know it in here. He saw who was outside. He wanted to go diffuse it. Then Travis saw who was outside, and he wanted to put the argument into motion. He wanted to give his side of it, and he started that fight. He started it, and he certainly ended it, ladies and gentlemen. That's what the facts and the evidence show. No shell casings from anybody else but this defendant. Not one. Despite these guys being these murderous vigilantes, they somehow aren't able to pop off a shot when 39 are ringing back at them. Say what you want. Say what you want about on the porch, out on the lawn, walking down the road. Whether or not they could have pulled the gun, would have shot then, I submit to you, those are plenty of good times if they were on a murderous rampage. That would have been the time to shoot the gun. But absolutely, when 39 shots start ringing out, they don't take one defensive shot back to try to get him to stop. Give us a break. We know that if they had not one but two pointed directly at him and his brother, They would have pulled that trigger if it was anything close to true. There'd be a shell casing inside that car. There'd be a shell casing outside of the car. There'd be another shell casing that doesn't come from that Sig Sauer, and we don't have it. Why? Because they're trying to force you to believe that guns were in their hands when this happened, ladies and gentlemen. And forcing you to believe it, imagining that it happened, speculating that a gun might have been there, those are not reasonable doubts. Actions and the lack thereof can speak louder than words. He was not defending himself, ladies and gentlemen. He was pissed off. Just like they were pissed off. Difference is, every one of them that came in here, they acknowledged their role in this. Even looking back, saying in hindsight 2020, maybe we don't do that at midnight in terms of going over and confronting him. All of them acknowledged their faults. He got up and said, Detective Vanderlyn said she never made a mistake. I'll rely on you guys to go back in that jury room and see, was there ever a time that she was like, you know what? It was an oversight. You're right. I should have done that. Of course she did. She's not perfect. It's clear she didn't do nothing, ladies and gentlemen. And it's clear that she cares about this case because of all the work that she did to try to figure out who did it. And the answer is Travis Rudolph, because he was pissed off. Because he was pissed off. Hasn't been easy. We appreciate all your time. Your verdict's not going to be easy. Like Mr. Shiner said, a lot of people affected by this case. A lot of people. But that last jury instruction says, when you go back there, it's not about sympathy for anybody. Not the dead person, not the almost dead people, not for Travis, not for Daryl, not for Linda. It cannot be based on that. And you all were the ones that swore, you're right, it's not going to be based on that. What it's going to be based on is the truth. What it's going to be based on is a factual determination. Number one, is Sebastian Jean-Jacques dead? Answer, yes. Number two, is he dead because of this man's criminal action? Yes. Number three, did he do it and think about it before he did it? Yes. The end. The end. Self-defense is not in play here. His self-defense ended the moment he decided to walk down that road, follow him to his car, and as they're turning and leaving, he pumps 39 shots into that car. He was sending a message. Don't come back to my house. Unfortunately, under Florida law, he was not allowed to send that message with 39 bullets that killed somebody and almost killed 3, ladies and gentlemen. So what we're asking you to do is when you go back into that jury room, and Mr. Shiner said, hey, it should be 5 minutes. I got more respect for this case than that. There's a lot of evidence. Not a great projector. A lot of things that maybe because of us, we're standing right here like dopes blocking you from seeing something. We understand that. But now, that evidence is yours. Whatever you need to see, whatever you need to hear, a lot of them are going to be back there with you. But if you ever have a doubt about any of those videos or the audio, please send out a question. We want you to see Vanderlyn's work. We want you to see everything that was done to get the clearest picture possible of why Sebastian Jean-Jacques is dead and why those 3 other young men almost died. And it's because this defendant decided to take matters into his own hands when he didn't have the legal justification to do so. It's as simple as that. And we're confident when you go in the back and start funneling all these facts, all this evidence through those 2 worlds, every time you funnel those facts through the defense world, every time alarm bells are going to go off. But every time you funnel it through the world that these young men wanted to go over, have a fist fight, and when it was over, they left, not a single alarm bell, ladies and gentlemen. Not one. So, go back there, take your time. If you have any questions, please send it out. You need to look at any of the text messages. They're all going to go back with you too. The text from Tyranny, text from Daryl, where they never mention guns again. First text I would send is, hey, they threatened me with guns, man. What do you want? Not going to find a single text like that because that's not what they did. They came over for a fist fight. He turned it into a gunfight, and that's illegal and against the law. And for those reasons, ladies and gentlemen, we're confident that when you go back there and you get that verdict form, you're going to check the box that says guilty of first-degree murder with a firearm, guilty of attempted first-degree murder with a firearm for the other 3, because self-defense ended and murder began. Nothing more, nothing less. It is not a moral judgment on him, it's a legal judgment, and that's what your verdict stands for. That he did that night. He didn't have the right to, and now he simply has to face the consequences of those actions. Thank you very much.